What's going on, everybody? Welcome back here to episode 4. Zaire Joseph and his NCAA career for the Syracuse Orange. We got a special episode today, a triple header planned through the rest of November at home against Iowa, then out on the road over the next 2 weeks to play a very good Arizona team and then Ohio State. So let's hop right into this matchup with the first two Big Ten teams we play in Iowa. Here at home, we come in 2-2, 1-0 at home so far, coming off that loss to the Bearcats, facing the 0-3 Hawkeyes with their last two games were against UNC and Georgia. Two very good teams. They lost by 10 to the Tar Heels and got absolutely destroyed against Anthony Edwards and the Bulldogs in Georgia, where Ant-Man dropped 48 points on them. So we'll see how confident they come into our matchup, being winless in their start to the season. Looking at their roster quickly, they're led by junior Luka Garza at center, averaging 17 points and 7 rebounds. He'll be matched up with Jesse Edwards, making his second start since JBA will still be recovering from his tailbone injury. And his two co-stars in the backcourt, Bakari Evelyn and the redshirt senior from Detroit, averaging 16 points per game, matched up against Zaire and the pure shooter Jordan Bohannon, the 6'1" senior, who will match up with Jalen Carey, who's been struggling guarding anybody so far this season. Two other notables on that roster being sophomore Joe Wisekamp at forward and Cordell Pemsel, the junior, at forward. In this game, the consensus picked the Orange to come out with the victory. Let's go out and get it done, looking to bounce back. Both teams are a liability on defense, being first and second in points allowed, and also like to get out in transition, being first and second in fast break points. It's weird because they're third and fourth in turning the ball over, so they're running and gunning efficiently, not really playing sloppily. Right before we get into the highlights from the game, we take a look at the rotations. Playing without JBA, trying to figure it out until he gets back, and hoping some people step up this game. So Jesse Edwards will make his second start in the lineup. Like I said before, and coach decides to throw minutes to Robert Braswell to relieve Elijah Hughes, and Quincy Guerrier will play the backup for Dosidabe to relieve Jesse Edwards. So jumping into the highlights, we have the winless Hawkeyes coming to play us at home. This is a good game the Hawkeyes put up, although they would be overpowered in the second half. To lose 89 to the Orange's 107, leading the way in scoring was Quincy Guerrier. By now, we're used to him coming off the bench with a good spark to the offense, scoring and rebounding. I will make the case that he start, but it's good to have that rotational piece that can score while Zaire and Elijah are on the bench. Speaking of the bench impact, two players who are growing on me coming in behind Zaire are Bryson Goodine and Buddy Boeheim, two shooters who've been stepping up their play. You see Bryson's stats for the game. He's been getting a couple more minutes as he's starting to earn his role in the rotation. Jesse Edwards, on the other hand, really impressed me in this game, filling in for John Ball-Jack, really stepping up into the starting role, even though it's temporary. I like to see that in the big guy. He should get more minutes when JBA returns. Now let's talk about what I saw from my son tonight. He played very lackadaisical in the first 3 quarters of the game and really turned it on later to try and find his shot. He does tend to get a little passive at times, but I like to see him lead the team as a point guard without having to take on all the scoring load. I like to see him set up the players around him and get them in good positions to score. He likes to get out into the open floor. He didn't force anything, playing an average game to my standards for him, as I know what he can do with the ball if he wanted to all night. On the other side of things, they only had 2 guys that really stood out during the game. One was definitely Jordan Bohannon. We definitely gonna remember his name. I don't know why Coach Boeheim didn't switch Zaire on him, because he was imposing his will on Jalen Carey. It's almost like he wasn't even there on some possessions, or at least like he was shooting like it. I know my son or someone else would have had a bigger impact on stopping him, and this kid had the green light all night. Then there was Bakari Evelyn, who Zaire was guarding. He started out hot, and then it's like Zaire limited his possessions, giving more of a defensive effort as the game went on. I thought he had a decent game, and facilitated their offense as Bohannon took on the scoring duties. So we recap the game. This win over Iowa was a good rebound game after that terrible loss in the last one. The first half wasn't their best, starting out slow and not playing like a team coming out hungry for revenge. I wanted to see more fight from the Orange, as at one point in the first half they found themselves down by 17 points midway through the first half. The bench really kept us in the game the first half behind a combined 20 points from MyCareer, who had 12, and Braswell with 8. In the second half, the Orange came out like a completely different team, coming out the half strong on both sides of the ball, scoring 58 points and limiting Iowa. The starters came out dominating, as Elijah Hughes with 8 points and Zaire with 11 points and 6 assists would lead the way, combining for 19 points and 6 assists, 7 of 15 shooting, and will pick up their prediction as solid minutes from Buddy, Boheem, Dolezaj, and Jesse Edwards will let Syracuse coast to a win, 107-89 over Iowa. The biggest key to this win was the bench production. As I pointed out, our score in there is 48-26. All in all, a very solid overall win for the Orange, despite minor struggles and not having JBA. As we move right along and get deep into the November around Thanksgiving Day, we get ready to take on the 2-1 Arizona Wildcats, which will be a tougher opponent and a good test for the team, as we are now 3-2 after beating up on Iowa. And you see Syracuse is going to get John Ball Jack back in this matchup with the Wildcats, which will be a big relief after missing the last couple games. As we look at the new rotations Coach put together, we'll be back in the starting lineup, but we will see Jesse Edwards, Braswell, and Goodine all getting a fair share of minutes in our 10-man rotation. And we are back at full strength and ready for Arizona, who are now playing their 4th straight home game starting the season. They come in 2-1. Their loss was to the powerhouse of Duke in their season opener, getting blown out by 36 with a final score of 109-73. Behind 27 points and 10 assists from Trey Jones, 22 points from Cassius Stanley, and a double-double by Wendell Moore, 16 points, 10 rebounds. Then Nico Mannion for Arizona had 11 points and 5 assists. Josh Green with 7 points and 7 assists. Only put up a combined 18 points and 12 assists off 7 of 23 shooting, in a disappointing loss to a good team, getting blown off their home court. Then they bounced back, picking up a win against the Colorado Buffaloes, ending Arizona 90, Colorado 85. Despite a combined 50 points from McKinley Wright, who had 29 points, and Deshaun Schwartz with 21, Buffalo could not withstand Arizona's guard play of Nico Mannion, Josh Green, Brandon Williams, and Max Hazard, as they will put on a 3-point barrage. Then in their latest game, they pick up the 16-point win against the Washington Huskies, 106-90, behind a 17-point, 10-assist double-double from Nico, 17 points from Josh Green, and 16 points from Chase Jeter. Seemed like Isaiah Stewart led the way with 27 points on a very efficient 13 of 15 shooting, and Jaden McDaniels also showed up with 23 points and 9 rebounds. Nonetheless, they're our matchup tonight. Both teams coming into the game off wins, and this should be a good-ass matchup, with the consensus projecting us to take the win again, although we look overmatched on paper, as Arizona is 2nd in the nation in 3-point percentage, 4th in rebounds and assists, and then 5th in steals. A well-balanced team. As we look quickly at their impact players, first up, one of the top recruits in the nation for the upcoming draft, freshman guard from Italy, Nico Mannion, at 6'3", averaging 16 points and 7 assists. He'll be matched up, of course, with the liability himself, Jalen Carey. Then we have Josh Green at 6'6", freshman guard from Australia, also another lottery projected pick in the upcoming draft. He'll be matching up with Zaire, so a lot of start power and a bunch of eyes watching tonight in the game. Then the matchup of senior transfer from Duke, Chase Jeter at center, and John Ball Jack making his return tonight. This should be a good one down low. Two other notables at guard on the bench include sophomore Brandon Williams and graduate student Max Hazard. So we get into the highlight reel on the road against Arizona and McKale Memorial Center. Syracuse looking to end their 2-game win streak as we take a look at our side of things, starting out with freshman center John Jack putting on a show tonight in his return to action after a tailbone injury against Harvard had him sit out the last 2 games to prevent further injury. He definitely seemed healthy tonight, leading the way in minutes, points, and blocks for the Orange, only missing 6 shots for the game, and 6 of his 11 shots made were dunks. Then off the bench with another good game is the coach's son, Buddy Boeheim, with some very productive minutes. Love how he's finding his role within the rotation, filling in behind Zaire. Then Elijah Hughes with another inefficient night, yet a win and an all-around decent performance. And an off-shooting night, he still helped facilitate the offense, passing the ball nonetheless, as he is a big part of our offense. Let's talk about what Zaire did tonight. Not overly impressive, but just short of a double-double and 1 basket away from his first 20-point game. He actually shot worse than Elijah Hughes from the floor, but made it look less ugly with the assist total and only 1 turnover for the game for the star freshman. Now we take a look at who stood out for Arizona. No surprise here with Nico Mannion leading the way. Although shooting terribly from the floor, he helped keep his team in the game, along with his partner in the backcourt, Josh Green, on a well-balanced night for him, as their backcourt shouldering the load and sort of doing it all this season. Chase Jeter also pitched in tonight with posting a nice double-double, but getting torched by JBA on the other side of things. So we recap the game. A very good game between these 2 teams. Syracuse will edge out the win 108-105, barely escaping, but knocking down their free throws late in the game with the lead on the line to close out the game. The first half belonged to the Wildcats as they would jump out to a lead early, putting up 63 points at the half to Syracuse's 48, as the Orange would be down 15, as in the second half where the Orange got it going to a lead comeback right out of the half where Syracuse outscored Arizona by 18 points, playing some inspiring defense. It would be Zaire Joseph and JBA leading the charge in the comeback 60-42 and holding them to 36% shooting. ZJ3 scoring 14 points and 6 assists with 4 rebounds and a steal in the second half, and JBA with 16 points, 5 rebounds, and a steal and 3 blocks. Elijah pitched in with 11 points, and I loved how the team performed in the later parts of the game, really getting it going. I'm proud of this win. This team seems to get off to a slow start, and as the game comes to them, they start making shots and getting motivated on defense. It's more of a marathon where they say they're big runs for late in the second half. Now sitting at 4-2, the Orange playing great basketball the last couple games, and Zaire noticing the efforts of his team to let it be known in their locker room as we get ready to move forward for our second Big Ten matchup at Ohio State, who sits at 5-2. We come into another good test for Zaire and Syracuse. They started out the season 3-0, beating LSU, Kansas, and Texas Tech, then took a loss to South Carolina and went bounced back against Harvard. But looking at their last 2 games, they would lose at home against Gonzaga, giving them their second loss overall. Final score being 87-75 as Zaga takes the 12-point win after leading the way by 14 at the half. They coast to the win behind a game-high 25 from Gilder and 15 from the big man Petrusev. For the Buckeyes, Caleb Wesson, their star junior at center, 21 points including 2 threes and 2 blocks. Then it was DJ Carton with just 12 points, 5 assists, but it's not enough in this one. They would then bounce back in a win against Cincinnati, a team we lost to. They would just edge out the win 72-69. I know they would lead the entire game. And this one, Andre Weston would lead the way, scoring with 21 points, shooting a perfect 9 for 9. Caleb will have a good game also with 18 points and 10 boards for a double-double. For the Bearcats, of course, Trey Scott, whom we're familiar with, will go 17 points and 12 rebounds in the loss. Both teams shooting terrible from the floor, down in the mid-30s anyways. In this matchup, Ohio State, they will get the consensus pick for the win. So we're looking to upset them tonight with a victory, as they look well-rounded in each of the statistical categories. As we look at the key matchups for the game, first off, we got Caleb Wesson, the junior at center, averaging 17 and 8. We'll look to slow him down, even though he definitely has a size advantage against JBA. Then his older brother Andre, who's at the forward position in his senior year, averaging 11 points with 6 rebounds and 2 steals. And we know Elijah Hughes will take on the challenge. Another notable will be DJ Carton at the point guard in his freshman year. And then lastly, Luther Muhammad, the sophomore shooter at guard, lined up against Zaire. As we hop into the highlight reel, as we get into the reel on the plays against the Buckeyes, and I'll start with Elijah Hughes, who had himself a good night, seemingly taking on the role of scorer tonight, really shooting efficiently. He really was lighting it up, making contested jumpers and putting the ball in the basket almost from wherever he touched it, being inside or outside, wherever he played. Zero defense was only responsible for his buckets, and it was 0 assists, 0 steals, and 0 blocks. And he started out with a decent game to go into the half with 10 points, but then in the second half really got it cooking, dropping 17 in the final 10 minutes of play. Zaire really was setting him up for his success all night. As we talk about his production tonight, he also had an amazing game, notching a double-double. I'm amazed how he ran the offense tonight. They seemed so in tune with each other. He got assists to every teammate this game, but mostly Elijah Hughes, who we know had it going all night. Zaire was far more aggressive and efficient this game, playing well not only on the offensive but on the defensive side of the ball. I love what I saw from my son, showing exactly what he's capable of, running that offense and shouldering the scoring load and leading the way defensively in the second half, scoring 10 points, 12 assists, and 2 steals down the stretch. Quincy with another stellar night off the bench. That's really no surprise at this point. We kind of trust he'll bring his game every game going forward and working for a starting spot. Now let's look at the standouts for Ohio State. And DJ Carton, the freshman guard, put on the show the entire night. He seemed unstoppable, as I saw Syracuse throw multiple defenders at the kid, and he just fed them all. Whoever wanted smoke caught some for sure. By far the best scorer we faced so far. He was shooting from 3-point, mid-range, contested, attacking the rim, drawing fouls. The guy just went off trying to will Ohio State to a win in the second half, where he dropped 20 of his 35 points. He had help from the big guy, of course. He was just overpowering down low. Wesson with a double-double and also hitting a couple from deep. Had a pretty good game. Next up were just 2 contributors. Gaffney with a double-double, shooting perfect from the floor. And then Zaire's matchup, Muhammad, with 2 big threes in the second half, although he was held pretty much in check for the game. Quick game recap. The Syracuse Orange will be the victors in this one, behind the 3-headed monster of Elijah Hughes with 27 points, CJ3 with 18 points, 14 assists, and 3 steals, and MyCareer with 18 points, 9 rebounds. JBA was 16 points, so as the Orange would control the game throughout the half, being up 49-45 with the all-around team effort, yet still a slow start like usual, and then the second half turning on the switch and playing a more competitive basketball. The stars shine in the second half, where the Buckeyes will make a run to take the lead midway through the half behind 35 points from freshman DJ Carton and junior Caleb Wesson. Although it wouldn't be enough, as Zaire and Elijah will lead the way to a win 107-103 on the road and upset Ohio State at home as they fall to 5-3 and we go to 5-2 with a 3-game win streak. I love how the team has been playing these last few games, really showing heart and the ability to close out a game when the opportunity presents itself. It's dangerous to play the way they've been, very lackadaisical in the first half of the game, and then trying to hit that switch for the crunch time in the late in the game. What happens when we run into a team who have no off switch and get it going early? But nonetheless, the team has been kind of letting games come to them, stepping into their roles and executing behind the leadership of Zaire, Elijah, and JBA. I would say who are the captains on the squad. I'm glad we're starting to play good basketball, because the next couple games are definitely going to be tough. So we should be coming in hot on the 3-game streak, looking to extend it to a goal of at least 5. But anyway, now that will be all for the games and this episode. I did plan on having an update for the end of the video, but since there are 3 games in it, it got a bit lengthy, so I decided to make it an update and an announcement for episode 5, which I'm so excited about. It'll include the draft stories and mock draft projections, stats, and new upgrade and goals for each games or episode. But not to spoil too much, stay tuned for the next episode. Thanks. OG out. Peace.